Welcome to A Lawyer's Guide to the Galaxy, a podcast about geek culture by lawyers with your hosts, Ben Siders and Kirk Taman.
Okay, had some technical difficulties here, but I'm going to go ahead and start recording one of our new Edamame episodes. You know, we did these things quite a bit in the early days of COVID. I'm actually doing this one sort of like I used to do those. I'm back out on my patio, sort of drinking my coffee, and we got some cicadas in the background, so hopefully they're not too loud. But the purpose of this episode, one, to put a little content out there. We have not done a science fiction sort of review episode in a while, and there are a couple things I wanted to talk about from that point of view. The first one of which, and the reason I'm talking about it, is because Ben hasn't seen it. I'm going to talk about The Bad Batch. So, I don't know if you guys have watched Disney Plus's The Bad Batch. It doesn't seem to have gotten nearly as much promotion as a lot of the other sort of, new Star Wars series that were coming out. Just kind of quietly appeared. And definitely they've not been advertising that they've been releasing new episodes, it doesn't seem like. They've been pushing much more, I think, some of their movies and some of their Marvel content. But I started watching The Bad Batch. My son really wanted to watch it. And I'm going to give you a little background. If you go back to one of our prior episodes, I will link it in the show notes. I mentioned the fact that I was not a big fan of the Bad Batch episodes of Clone Wars. I started off, the real problem I had with them, one, I actually didn't realize there were two different Bad Batches that sort of appear in conjunction with it. There's a first group of episodes of sort of a Bad Batch of clones, but then there actually is The Bad Batch. And it's I believe season 4 or 5, definitely late season episodes of the Clone Wars. I think there's two of them. There's at least a couple that are interlinked. But it introduces Clone Force 99, which is the Bad Batch. The reason I didn't like the concept of the Bad Batch in Clone Wars is, to me, it felt just way too archetypal. It was one of these things where you have the sort of classic group of misfits. The Bad Batch are essentially experimental clones that, get put together as an individual, as Special Forces Strike Force team. And they're classic archetypes. I mean, it's the A-Team in Star Wars. You have, Tech, who's the classic, brainy, smart one. You have Wrecker, who's kind of the classic, I want to blow stuff up, I want to wreck things. Not necessarily, sort of the brightest bulb, but definitely, sort of practical experience type of guy. You have Crosshair, who's the sniper. And you have the leader, Hunter. And Hunter is the, leader of it, but dark and brooding, oftentimes in respect to the Killjoy, the one who sort of is the, hey, we got to do this. This is necessary for us. These things are important. And that's sort of his position in conjunction with this. So the real problem I had with the Bad Batch is they felt too much like, hey, they're amazing. They do these rather incredible things. Big battle between, Wrecker and Crosshair in one of the first episodes is who can take out the most droids in sort of the most creative fashion. They're completely overpowered, for the world. They're really the classic, like, archetypal hero. I mean, they're all Rambos, and, they're all these, again, archetypes. I did enjoy a couple things about the episode. My son loves the episode, and again, I'm giving away a few spoilers here. He loves the episode when they hand the detonator to Wrecker, and Anakin hands the detonator to Wrecker, and Wrecker comments, "It's the greatest day of my life," and he proceeds to self-destruct one of the droid ships. So you definitely had, those kind of elements come into it. A couple things that get introduced is a new character gets added to the Bad Batch, and again, for those of you who may be just sort of starting in this, I haven't said it. I'm going to put a lot of spoilers in this. If you guys are really into, watching these sort of things, definitely stop now. If you've seen the Clone Wars and what it is and haven't seen the Bad Batch, definitely stop now, even though I'm going to be talking about Clone Wars for a while. I'm going to give you some spoilers in the Bad Batch, and there are some spoil-worthy scenes in Bad Batch. So it's one of those things where if that's a thing for you, definitely don't listen to this episode. Go watch the episodes. I'm not entirely through it. I think we've got one. We haven't made it through yet. But I wanted to talk to you, again, I'm going to talk about it, but I'm going to have to talk about the plot, and there definitely are some spoilers there. So one of the key things is that they add a member to their team, which is Echo. Echo is Fives from the original Clone Wars, and of course he gets captured by the Separatists. You find out he's basically been tortured. He's been essentially cybernetically modified by the Techno Guild. I can't think which one it is. It's definitely one of the groups of the Separatists we see in the actual movies, just briefly sitting around the conference table. And he's basically become a cyborg, and he's feeding data to the Separatists and their droid army, and helping them control their droids based upon, what the clones are doing, and giving them sort of advanced intel and stuff like that. So a lot of the Bad Batch is to rescue him. They find out about this issue. They go and they rescue him. At the end of it, he's a misfit as well, so he ends up joining the Bad Batch. The key about it is that he is not a modified trooper like they are. He was modified by somebody other than the original Camino clones, or cloners, and that is a little bit important at various points during the course of it. So anyway, that's the background behind the Bad Batch. You then begin the actual show. The things I loved about the Bad Batch, and I have to admit, I didn't like the original Bad Batch as a group. I really kind of love the Bad Batch show. I think Disney is really kind of nailing this one. This is one more that I'm really starting to believe that Star Wars is best told in sort of the serialized TV format. The shorter, half-hour, 45-minute episodes seem to work better than the big, long movies do. And the ability to sort of explore hidden parts of the Star Wars universe. So the Bad Batch takes place right after Order 66 is given. It actually starts with the Bad Batch fighting alongside their Jedi allies, along with a bunch of clones. The order is given, and you discover that the Bad Batch does not take the order. They don't know what's going on, but you have, the clones sort of turn on them. They become rogue and run off. You do learn in the course of it. I believe it's Echo. I'm trying to remember which one it is. One has had his chip removed, so obviously cannot have the Order 66 take effect. He doesn't have an inhibitor chip anymore. The other ones do, but you find out basically that they because of their different physiology, the chips aren't working right, and they're not actually doing it. What they do introduce relatively early is when the Bad Batch gets back to the Kaminoans and the cloning, you have the beginning of the Empire. And the start of the Empire. One of the key things about it is, and I think it's one of the better parts of the show, Crosshair's chip kicks in. And so Crosshair is opposed to the rest of the Bad Batch. He is without question working for the Empire. They actually have to leave him behind as they run from the Kaminoans. In addition, you meet a new character who is Omega. Unfortunately, again, sort of following with the strict archetype idea, Omega is the classic child that needs to be protected. She is Newt from Aliens. You also learn fairly early on, I guessed it right off from the clue that they gave with it, is that Omega is also an altered clone, like the rest of the Bad Batch, and she is actually the last member of the team. So what we have the Bad Batch basically being a sort of mercenaries. They definitely have, and the way they introduce them in conjunction with the show, they have to do jobs. They have a taskmaster, basically, who they need to repay a debt to. And, they're taking essentially mercenary jobs to make money. What's cool about the show, and the reason I like the show, is not necessarily the stuff with the Bad Batch, but it really investigates a couple interesting areas of the Star Wars universe. The first one of which is the formation of the Empire. While it's happening very quickly, you really see the Empire starting to take shape, and the idea of it becoming oppressive as opposed to being sort of this republic that everybody was happy with before. You have senators who are really wondering, am I on the right side anymore? Those kind of questions coming out. The clones are beginning to look more and more like stormtroopers and behave like stormtroopers, which is really sort of a nice effect of it. You're seeing the Imperial uniforms, the classic, sort of General Tarkin Imperial uniform starting to, really take hold. And that's a really sort of cool effect as to what it is. And actually, it's probably my favorite part of the show, is the fact that I really like this exploration of the formation of the Empire. And that really it's a backdrop to the Bad Batch. It's not their stories. It's their backdrop, but I think it's one of those things that just works really well, and it's a really cool exploration of something that I think a lot of people are interested in conjunction with the Star Wars universe, and the idea of the collapse. I always comment about it, and I always said that, my favorite scene of sort of all of the prequels is in the trailer for Episode 3. And it's the idea that when you watch the trailer for Episode 3, you can see the Republic falling and the fall of Anakin Skywalker, and that it's so heavily foreshadowed behind it, but also just the idea of this is going to be painful, this is going to be bad, and they do such a good job of it in the trailer. Unfortunately, they don't do a great job of it in the movie, but they do a great job of it in the trailer. You really get that in the Bad Batch, that you know where this is going, this is headed to the Empire, and this is negative. And it's just really, really well done around the Bad Batch, and the idea of them not being sure what side they're on. You definitely do have some plays around their inhibitor chips, and whether or not their inhibitor chips are going to kick in, and the idea that maybe they need to remove them. They introduce some of the great Clone Wars characters again. Some people make some cameos, from prior Clone Wars. Which is nice. You get sort of some familiar characters and sort of a where are they now type of thing with it. It also introduces a little bit emotional tug of the idea that, hey, these are important characters. Where do we want them to go? There are some introduction of major important characters, with it. So that's really my number one thing that I have about the show that I like. The second thing I really like about the show is that we are essentially starting to see, and this takes a little bit to develop, but you get it right off the bat, but you really start to see it develop as the show progresses. The idea that there are factions within the Kaminoans. They are exploring the cloners and sort of their motivations and what they're doing. And so we really kind of have three factions starting to appear in the Kaminoans. And what I like is, you have the classic, hey, the Empire's bad, faction, which they seem to be getting into, or this whole thing is bad. But you get into the other one, which is what is their job? Their job is to make this army. And one of the factions is very much the sort of ruthless business of if they can recruit clones, which is something that they talk about, or recruit stormtroopers, which is something that they sort of get into in some of the early episodes, our clones aren't really needed anymore. And then what happens to us? We lose our contracts, we lose our money. We got a single buyer here, and that's one of the clear factions in the Kaminoans. And I think it's a cool thing they can explore further, and I really hope they do. But we've not seen a lot of detail in it, but we're definitely getting background of the Kaminoans. One of the later episodes, they visit an abandoned cloning facility, which is a bit dark, in some of the stuff that's presented, what it means to be a clone, and the idea of being in some sense owned, by the Kaminoans and stuff like that. So there's some big themes developing and some stuff coming down. A few of the things, and again, spoilers for those of you who've seen it in comments, the things that I really liked. I love the introduction of Cad Bane, the fact that he's back. I also think it's interesting that we've brought in the bounty hunter that appeared in The Mandalorian. We have her sort of, as an early bounty hunter. At least I believe that's who they're trying to make that to be. I couldn't catch the names, but I'm pretty sure that's who it is. I did really like that as something being introduced. And I liked it in particular because of the fact that I think we're going to see some ties into The Mandalorian and potentially to the Boba Fett, especially now that we know about the secrets of Omega. And who Omega is. I'm wondering if we're going to see Omega potentially appear in The Mandalorian or in the new Boba Fett spinoff. I have the feeling she may appear in the Boba Fett spinoff, and that may be something that they're setting up. So anyway, it's going to be very interesting, I think, to see where this develops. But basically my take of it, and again, what I have with it, if you've seen it, that's great. Hopefully you enjoyed this, sort of my takes on it. And again, I was really pleasantly surprised behind it. If you haven't seen it, and hopefully I didn't just spoil too much for you, but I tried to keep spoilers a little bit out, and a few things, but maybe teased you a little bit for it. I'm also one of those people where the spoilers don't bother me, so it's, I don't mind knowing something that's coming, in conjunction with the movie, before it comes. But anyway, it's one of those where if you haven't seen it in this thing, you listen to this, I would recommend watching it. It's actually a surprisingly good show to watch. And again, I think it's really surprising to see where Disney is going in conjunction with the Star Wars universe. So anyway, this is just a sort of Edamame episode. I'm going to record potentially another one of these today. I may record a couple more of these in the course of doing it, but there's a few other things I wanted to talk about. So anyway, I'm going to stop here just because I want these to be short bite-sized episodes and leave you with that. So anyway, have a good day and signing off.
The views expressed by the participants of this program are their own and do not represent the views of, nor are they endorsed by Lewis Rice LLC, its officers, directors, employees, agents, representatives, shareholders, and subsidiaries. None of the content should be considered legal advice. As always, consult a lawyer. This podcast was produced and recorded in St. Louis, Missouri.